Good evening. You are watching the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. First, the headlines. Due to technical malfunction, more than 52,000 vehicles are recalled during the first half of 2015. The CEO of ORPEC stresses that the profits of the company increased by 50%. And the Conference of the Power Within New Era of Human Capital discusses in Muscat the global approaches in leadership and human resources management. Those were the headlines. Now for the news in detail. The Public Authority for Consumer Protection confirmed that in cooperation with automotive agencies, it recalled more than 52,000 vehicles during the first half of the current year due to some technical malfunction. The authorities stated that these procedures had a big role in reducing car accident rates. These malfunctions varied from blast of airbag covers, exceptional pressure increase, in addition to wrong readiness readings of fuel meter and other defects that caused all these recalls. Mus'ab bin Abdullah al-Mahrouqi, CEO of Oman Oil Refineries and Petroleum Industries Company, ORPEC, stressed that although the decrease of oil prices during the first half of 2015, the profits of the company increased by 50%. The Power Within New Era of Human Capital Conference was held in Muscat under the auspices of His Excellency Sheikh Khalid bin Umar Al Marhoon, Minister of Civil Service. It witnessed a participation from more than 300 personalities from both public and private sectors, as well as 10 international experts in human resources field. It discussed the global approaches to develop leadership and the human resources in a way that matches the work environment in the Sultanate. During the conference, the experts also reviewed challenges facing human resources field. Also focused on innovative solutions to achieve success in work environment. The conference came within the keenness of public and private sectors to prepare and qualify national manpower through training, education, and strategies related to human resources. The Oman oil price November delivery reached $44.25 according to Dubai Mercantile Exchange DME. The DME statement today said that the price of Oman oil declined 23 cents from the price of yesterday, Monday, which was $44.48. The average price of Oman oil September delivery 2015 has stabilized at $56.33, thus $5.51 per barrel lower than August delivery. Muscat Securities Market General Index today lost 6.9 points, comprising a decline by 0.12% to close at 5,760 points compared to the last session. The trading value today stood at 3.13 million Omani Riyals, comprising a rise by 1.82% compared to the last session. The report released by MSM pointed out that the market value fell by 0.03% to reach about 14.5 billion Riyals. The report added that the value of shares bought by non-Omani investors reached 24%, whereas the value of shares sold by non-Omani investors reached 21%. Still to come in our news bulletin. In under 4 months, the Tour Alternativa in France stopped in nearly 200 towns and villages. Welcome back to the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. The Municipal Council in the Governorate of Dhahira discussed in its 7th meeting giving priority in development services for areas with big population. The meeting focused on the importance of the fair distribution of schemes with their various categories and uses, along with establishing dams to preserve underground water. The Council also discussed the phenomenon of misusing public properties and the necessity to put up awareness programs to face it. It also reviewed speeches that came from authorities concerned that relates to electricity connection, road projects and lighting. The Municipal Council meeting in the Governorate of Wusta discussed topics related to asphalting internal roads in the areas of Khadra, Qaysad and Al-Labki in the Wilaya of Al-Jazir, in addition to review the mechanism to preserve public facilities. The meeting also focused on the leaking of the drilling water collection tanks in the Wilaya of Al-Jazir. It further discussed the work applications in the field of mining, as well as the mechanism through which the companies working in mining and crushers field will pay 5% to the municipal committees in the wilayas. Activating the positive role of youth in the society and limiting negative phenomena were the main goals of a workshop that is organized by Oman Women's Association in cooperation with local teams in the Wilaya of Shinas. The workshop gathered a number of youth who practice vehicle drifting with a number of officials and specialists to discuss this phenomenon and its negative effects. Moving to international news, the US-led coalition launched a number of airstrikes against Daesh group in the Diyala province and Kirkuk city that killed dozens of militants. An Iraqi security source announced that a car driven by a suicide bomber exploded in east of Fallujah in western Iraq. The target of the attack was on security forces. Meanwhile, an Iraqi police source said that 16 Daesh group members were killed and 4 were arrested in Ramadi and Samarra. Croatian authorities reopened the Tovarnik border crossing with Serbia to manage the flow of migrants entering the EU after thousands turned up at the Babska crossing further east. The migrants walked through cornfields across the area between the two countries to reach the crossing points. Crowds of people gathered on the Croatian side of the border, with some waiting in a graveyard for buses that would take them to an interim camp in the village of Opatovac. Croatia has been trying to control the flow of people arriving by slowly letting small groups across the border at a time. Last week, more than 60,000 migrants crossed into Croatia from Serbia. Croatia is transporting migrants north to its border with Hungary, which in turn sends them to Austria, but is struggling to keep pace with the influx. India launched its first space research observatory and several U.S. satellites, part of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's drive to expand his country's influence in the competitive $300 billion global space industry. The observatory, named Astrosat, will help Indian scientists intensify space exploration efforts by studying distant celestial objects and conduct deeper analysis of star systems. Water flows on Mars, raising possibility that the planet could support life. Although the source and the chemistry of the water is unknown, the discovery will change scientists' thinking about whether the planet that is most like Earth in the solar system hosts microbial life beneath its radiation-blasted crust. French environmentalists from the Alternativa movement rounded off their own Tour de France to raise awareness about climate change ahead of the COP21 conference in Paris. The following report elaborates their experience.
Bordeaux, southern France. In early September, a small group of militants on wheels were welcomed by hundreds of fellow cyclists. In June, these environmentalists from the Alternativa movement had embarked on a Tour de France on tandem.
We've just completed the 5,000th kilometre of this great adventure, this environmental road movie. It's been over 3 months since we set off, cycling from town to town. mornings, afternoons and evenings. We do public conferences, set up stalls and exhibitions, organize speeches and mini-concerts, all to raise awareness about climate change.
2 weeks later, and 600 kilometers down the road, the group reached the Parisian suburbs, joined by a few supporters. The big city and its flock of car drivers were quite a change from the countryside, but nothing that could deter these eco-cyclists.
People are generally kind to us because we smile and have a good attitude. We try to show that we're not here to bother them, just to talk about climate change. We suggest alternative means of transport, other solutions, and they're usually understanding and patient.
In under 4 months, the Tour Alternativa stopped in nearly 200 towns and villages. Tens of thousands of people welcomed them and listened to their presentations.
At first I wasn't really interested, but now I kind of get it. I've heard them speak and it sounds good.
It's good to act like this, instead of just doing a lot of talking. We're looking at a big problem, so we've got to act on every level, political, economic and even festive.
After 5,700 kilometers on the road, the organizers are still surprised by this response.
In some places we were welcomed by 300 or 400 people, even in the middle of August. In small villages there'd still be 150 people. That's pretty awesome. So people will act if you give them ambitious, exciting and well-organized projects. That makes us really optimistic.
Alternativa plan to continue their awareness campaign during the COP21 in Paris. The activists promise they will take part in every single protest.
Now for the general weather forecast. Clear skies will prevail over the Sultanate with cloud accumulation and chances of scattered rainfalls over the Hajar Mountains and the nearby areas, as well as chances of low clouds on the coastal areas of the Sultanate. Winds will be northeasterly light to moderate along the coasts of the Sea of Oman, while it will be southeasterly light to moderate along the rest of the Sultanate. Seas along the coasts of the Arabian Sea will be slight with a maximum wave height of 1.25 meters, and along the coasts of the Sea of Oman and Governorate of Musandam, it will be slight with a maximum wave height of 1.5 meters. This is the Sultanate of Oman television. Before we end tonight's bulletin, here are the main points once again. Due to technical malfunction, more than 52,000 vehicles are recalled during the first half of 2015. The CEO of Orpex stresses that the profits of the company increased by 50%. And the Conference of the Power Within New Era of Human Capital discusses in Muscat the global approaches in leadership and human resources management. With that, we come to the end of tonight's news bulletin. From all of us here at the newsroom and the studios, it's good night.